One of the questions you might get asked in an interview, and is just generally useful to know, are the types of programming errors and their implications. Now, two of these have major implications for you, and one of them doesn't really. So there are three types in general. The first type is a runtime error. So you've already made the application, it's currently running on someone's device, and you get a crash. The reasons for this could be bad code. You just haven't quite understood the code structures you need around that particular block that crashes. I mean, some common stuff is looping through an array and trying to access things that are outside of that array, i.e. you're trying to access more elements in the array than actually exist. There are also other ones like exceptions not handled. So if you make a call to the web and it comes back as, a 500, the server's not responding or something. If you don't handle that error, then you will get a crash. Okay, so the implications of a runtime error are quite severe, actually. Let's say you have an app of some sort and the user is using it. They will then get a crash from the error. They don't get any elegant error handling, just bang, the application is gone. And that applies across all systems, regardless of the operating system and what have you. There are some exceptions for web development, of course, but on the whole, you want to avoid this. You really want to avoid this. After you get the crash, what does that actually result in? What does it manifest in? Well, it's a bad user experience, obviously, and the user, if they're annoyed enough, will give you bad reviews. I have learned from my personal experience that if your product is good enough, the bad reviews don't actually matter because people will still use it. But they do matter in terms of the speed that you can maintain to get to a market adoption of your product. What's the second error? Well, the second type of error is a logical error, i.e. you have some bad logic in your app. So to give a trivial example, let's say you have a calculator. The user puts two numbers in and says add, and your logic in the app somehow subtracts them. That would be a bad logic error. So bad algorithms cause that, and not applying enough programming principles really strictly also causes that kind of logical error, because you have spaghetti code that goes across itself and talks to other classes and objects. You shouldn't really have that. You should always divide things out and never repeat yourself. So what's the implication of this? Well, again, you have your user with their app. They put some data in and they get a result that is the wrong information. And they can kind of pick that up, right? So you're converting, let's say, feet to meters, and you put the wrong conversion in. A user will know that your app is incorrect. And that will definitely give you a bad review. Because it's like if you asked a friend for some advice to convert meters to feet, and they told you the wrong answer, and then your house came out sort of shaped like that on the roof, you'd be very, very annoyed at your friend, wouldn't you? You'd really annoyed, and you'd give him a bad review. And it's the same with apps. So logical errors can give you very bad reviews. So always check the logic, right? Even if it's trivial, run through the code yourself over and over again to check the logic, and then run through the application to check the logic is correct. So a useful thing for that is to use debugging tools that output the error, or not the error, that output the result you're expecting, line by line. So if you're doing a long calculation, one line for the add, one for the subtract, one for the minus, one for the times, one for the whatever it is. That's a good way to keep those to a minimum. Now, the final type of programming error that you're going to come across are syntax errors. And these are pretty minor because for the most part, when you have a syntax error, you don't know you're using the wrong syntax for the programming language, and the development environment will catch that out for you. So it's caught even before you release the app. And in most cases, you can't even build the app until you fix the syntax error. Now, there are some cases where that isn't the case, but I think on the whole, the programming world is moving to where syntax checking is very, very common, and you can't release your app without fixing the syntax. So those are the three types of programming errors. I hope that helps you in your interviews. If you're a beginner programmer, then you're probably a bit daunted facing a landscape of hundreds of languages and frameworks. What you need, even more than programming knowledge, is clarity around your learning journey. You need a map. A map that shows you what technical and non-technical skills are required as an employee, freelancer, or entrepreneur. And that's where my free guide comes in, Zero Dev to Hero Dev. It outlines top-level skills you need to become an employee, freelancer, entrepreneur, or any mixture of the three. If you want a map to success, then this guide is what you're looking for. Get it for free at iamdev.net/hero.